Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, desolation, peasants, specials, minions, meat sacks. That felt good. I'm a Useful Idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about Fukushima. And as expected, some of the figures are coming in about birth defects and diseases in children. And I've kind of been watching for this. And all these years, I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen more of this. But let's get right down to the gruesome details, as I like to say. Thyroid cancer rates among nearby children have skyrocketed to 40 times normal. So the children of Fukushima are dying. More than 48% of some 375,000 young people, nearly 200,000 kids, tested by the local medical university, which itself is in the reactor zone, have precancerous thyroid abnormalities, nodules, and cysts, and the rate is also accelerating. And they also said that more than 120 childhood cancers have appeared where normally the range was around 3. And the results are also consistent with those found around 3 Mile Island in Chernobyl. So now we've had enough time over these last several years since the tsunami and the failure of the Fukushima Daichi nuclear plants. And now we can actually look at some of the data. And let's remember that we're still at an amazingly tragic point in the history of this tragedy unfolding in Fukushima. And but let me get to some of the back to the story first. I'll get to that in a minute. But so part of the blame is there was no distribution of protective pills, iodine, and no effective evacuation. So that led to a lot of unnecessary exposure to these children to the Fukushima disaster. And in fact, there's a scandal coming out now because apparently when the original disaster happened, over 700 workers abandoned Fukushima and left only a handful to deal with the first results of the destruction of the Fukushima nuclear plants. And many of the workers, especially the ones employed by independent contractors, probably have a lot of similar problems, but a lot of them aren't even monitored. They're not monitored for radiation, and they're not monitored for health problems, at least at this point. So we'll probably see a wave of results in maladies in a lot of these workers in the years to come as well, I would suspect. And interestingly enough as well, the government has plans to move these families, a lot of these families, back into those areas around Fukushima, and it's hardly what you would call safe. And public opinion is against them, but they really have no other choice. You have a lot of these towns around that region that they want to go back to normal, but it won't go back to normal because part of these long-term studies that shows up in this article, studies have shown that Chernobyl caused an estimated 1 million deaths eventually, and 80% of the children born downwind in Ukraine and Belarus have been affected with a wide range of health problems, radiation-related diseases, and cancer. And we see the same phenomenon at Fukushima. In fact, it's inevitably going to have to be worse because at least Chernobyl was contained after a certain amount of time and was covered in a cement coffin. And we have Fukushima has been completely exposed for the last several years. Japan is fortunate in some respects that the winds haven't blown a lot of the radiation their way. It's coming out across the ocean and over to the United States. And interestingly enough, a lot of that is showing up here. I live in Washington State, and it's showing up here. We have radiation surges all across the United States. In fact, to actually rather alarming levels. And I'll attach another YouTuber's video below that shows the actual radiation levels in the United States right now that are elevated, and they just change what the definition of normal is. We've done that in the United States, and they've done the same thing in Japan. So we're exposed to a lot more radiation that used to be considered dangerous that now has just changed the level. So now it is deemed safe. But we have radiation showing up inland here in the United States. We have radiation on the beaches. We have radiation surges, and we have radiation in the sea life all up and down the coast. And the study says that future generations, another study, and I'll attach that below as well, talks about the effects for future generations, and they said the problems will increase for future generations. And as I already mentioned earlier, this is already accelerating. The rate of these precancerous growths and cancerous growths are accelerating. And what this study found when they studied butterflies in the region, that with each generation, these abnormalities will increase. So we'll see if that unfolds this way here as well. And then we also have produce and fish, fish from around the seas of Japan, but certainly not right off the coast of Fukushima, although I would imagine that's going on as well. But fish that is caught and sold on the open market. And then we have produce that is grown in the same region as this disaster and exposure to this radiation that's being sold in the open market. So there's another part of this tragedy. And we won't know the full damage, obviously, for a few more years down the road. We get to study more of the effects on human embryos, and we see the generational effects passed down, and then just constant exposure to more radiation. And as the Fukushima disaster keeps going on, and now this crazy idea with this ice wall, and I'm not sure if a lot of people heard about this idea about the ice wall, but one of the disturbing things about that is it's not even going to be remotely fully functional, if it works at all, until 2 years. And in the meantime, we have 300 tons of so-called decontaminated water being dumped into the ocean every day, every single day. And the decontamination units have failed on several occasions, and we also have all the groundwater, and we also have 3 melted cores that they don't even know where they are. So the spectrum of this disaster is just mind-boggling, and I can hardly keep my words straight as I describe it. So various health organizations predict the same for Fukushima. Some more independent health organizations predict the same for Fukushima that we saw at Chernobyl, and to a certain degree at 3 Mile Island. But of course the UN and some of these other organizations are in the pocket of the corporate government partnership worldwide, and they are going to toe the corporate line. And the UN, for example, said that, quote, "There is no discernible radiation-related health effects expected among exposed members," unquote. And that could hardly be the case. And their bald-faced lie will become more apparent as things unfold. But anyway, there's a sad statistics to roll in. Finally, we're getting to see some of the damage on the families and the workers and the children who live around the global disaster at Fukushima Daichi. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.